We are going to read through the simulated recall guidance prepared by the Ministry for Primary Industries. This is not part of the template food control plan itself, but it is referred to in the Recalling Your Food topic. It is a guidance for food business operators undertaking a simulated food recall. The guidance is also for wine and animal products producers, manufacturers, importers, exporters, and distributors. What is a simulated recall? A simulated recall, or mock recall, tests the effectiveness of your traceability and recall procedures. It involves developing a scenario, carrying out your scenario in a similar way to a genuine food recall, then reviewing how effective it was to identify any areas for improvement. A simulated recall is a bit like an emergency evacuation drill. It can help to improve capability, to make a real recall quicker and more effective, support everyone involved so they are clear on roles and responsibilities, and know what to expect in a real recall, identify any gaps or areas for improvement in your procedures, and demonstrate the importance of good traceability record keeping to staff. A successful simulated recall scenario should result in either a consumer-level simulated recall, which involves simulating the process for removing affected product from the supply chain and communicating to consumers, or trade-level simulated recall, which involves simulating the process for removing affected product from the food supply chain. Who should be involved in a simulated recall? You should aim to involve everyone in your simulated recall who would be involved in a real recall. This means senior staff responsible for making decisions, as well as staff involved with operations, marketing and communication, and sales and distribution. How often should I carry out a simulated recall? From the 1st of July, 2023, businesses with a plan or program under the Food Act, Wine Act, or Animal Products Act, as well as importers and exporters, will need to carry out a simulated recall. Regulations require this at least every 12 months after a simulated recall, or a genuine recall, if that recall demonstrated the traceability and recall procedures to be effective. You can refer to the specific regulations as detailed. Note that you can contact New Zealand Food Safety anytime for help by calling this number or using this email address. Recommended simulated recall steps. Here is an overview of the steps in a food recall. You can find more detail on each step later in the document. Step 1. Develop a scenario. Pick a problem, develop a backstory, prepare supporting information. Step 2. Work through your scenario. Investigate. Gather information, understand the scenario, identify affected products, trial on hold processes. Inform. Record how you would tell your verifier, or New Zealand Food Safety, in a real recall. Assess. Assess the risk, decide if a recall is needed and what level, trade or consumer. Check. Record how you would tell New Zealand Food Safety and check your assessment and decision with New Zealand Food Safety in a real recall. Communicate. Prepare draft communications materials with impacted businesses and consumers for a consumer-level simulated recall. Record how you would communicate in a real recall. Audit. Collect reconciliation records. Optional, fill out audit form, review and identify corrective actions. Note that some businesses choose to combine informing, assessing, and checking into a single step, using an online tool, such as GS1's Product Recall NZ application. Step 1. Develop a scenario. Best practice tips. It is best practice to base your scenario on something that could really happen in your business, to design a new scenario for each simulated recall, to design your scenario to reflect a worst case for your business, and to design it as a consumer-level recall, and for a different person or team to develop the simulated recall scenario to the person or team carrying out the simulated recall. Pick a problem. Example problems could include an undeclared allergen, for example, peanut, gluten. Foreign matter such as glass, metal. A microbiological hazard, for example, Listeria monocytogenes. A chemical hazard, for example, histamine in fish found in your product, or something else. Develop a backstory about the problem. Identify how the simulated problem was identified or reported, by who, and when. Examples could include a complaint from a consumer, a complaint from a trade customer, a detection of a hazard following testing, notification from a supplier, a detection of illness in the community reported via New Zealand Food Safety, or notification from an importer or foreign regulator. Identify what caused the problem and when, for example, packaging, labeling, ingredients, raw materials, equipment, staff, environment, water. Prepare supporting information. Prepare information to release to the person or team carrying out the simulated recall. For example, a simulated communication, such as an email informing them about a problem at the start of the simulated recall, a simulated communication from a lab such as an email, with test results to provide them during their investigation into the simulated problem, and a simulated communication from a supplier to provide them during their investigation into the simulated problem. Examples of simulated recall scenarios and supporting information. You might like to use one of the following simulated recall scenarios if they are suitable for your business. If they aren't suitable for your business, you could adapt them to your specific situation. Problem. Undeclared allergen. Backstory. A consumer experienced an allergic reaction following consumption of your product. NZFS informed you about the problem. The allergen was peanut. Ideas for supporting information. Simulated correspondence with NZFS, such as email reporting the problem, the product, and batch numbers. Simulated correspondence with supplier such as email. Simulated correspondence with lab such as email with test results from products. For example, 200 milligrams per kilogram allergenic protein, and or ingredients revealing that the source of the allergen was one batch of a contaminated ingredient. Simulated or real sales and distribution records. Problem. Foreign matter. Backstory. A consumer found foreign matter in your product. A consumer complained directly to your business about your product. The foreign matter was metal wire. Ideas for supporting information. Simulated correspondence with consumer such as an email with pictures of the foreign matter, the product, batch numbers, foreign matter measurements for example 10 mm, and description such as hard and sharp. Simulated or real inspection and or maintenance records revealing that the source of foreign matter was a breakage in your factory. Simulated or real sales and distribution records. Problem. Microbiological hazard. Backstory. 3 people reported becoming sick after consuming your product. NZFS informed you about the problem. The bacteria was Listeria monocytogenes. Note, this scenario works best for ready-to-eat products. Ideas for supporting information. Simulated correspondence with NZFS, such as an email reporting the problem, the product, batch numbers. Simulated or real cleaning records. Simulated correspondence with labs such as an email with test results, for example presumptive positive, or not detected, from different areas in your facility, and or from product revealing that the source of the bacteria was likely to be a contaminated cutting table. Simulated or real sales and distribution records. Problem. Chemical hazard. Backstory. Multiple reports of illness. Your product is suspected. A retailer informed you about the problem. The chemical hazard was elevated histamine. Ideas for supporting information. Simulated correspondence with retailer, such as an email from the retailer about the problem, the product, batch numbers. Simulated correspondence with lab such as an email, with product test results, for example, 220 mg per kilogram histamine. Simulated or real sales and distribution records. Simulated temperature records revealing inadequate temperature control due to malfunctioning chilling equipment. Step 2. Work through your scenario. You or your staff will need to work through the recall steps, with a few modifications explained below. Have your recall procedure ready to test. Here is an example. Investigate. Let other staff in your business that are involved in production or sales, if any, know about the simulated recall and invite them to take part. Simulate gathering information about the problem. Do this by identifying actions to take or what to investigate and in what order. Supporting information should be made available accordingly. Simulate using records such as production, inventory, sales and distribution to identify affected products. Simulate using records such as production, inventory, sales and distribution to determine where simulated affected products are. Test your on-hold processes. It isn't necessary to put a real-life hold on all simulated affected products in a simulated recall. Identify an area for secure storage of on-hold products such as locked or taped off. Inform. There is no need to inform your verifier, or NZFS, immediately of your simulated recall. However, you should prepare draft communications such as email to your verifier and or NZFS to show your verifier at your next verification. Support everyone involved so they are clear on roles and responsibilities, and know what to expect in a real recall. Optional. You may like to prepare draft communications such as email to logistics providers, customers, suppliers, and brand owners. Assess. Let other staff in your business that are responsible for technical assessment and decision-making, if any, know about the simulated recall and invite them to take part. Carry out a risk assessment. New Zealand Food Safety recommends using the risk assessment form. Add the words simulated recall or similar to the top of the form. Make a decision to recall or no further action, the type of recall, for example, consumer level or trade level. Which products and batches are included, and record your justification. If the decision results in no further action, carry out another simulated recall. Check. There is no need to check your simulated recall decision or your product management disposal plan with New Zealand Food Safety. Instead, create a draft communication, such as an email with risk assessment form attached, checking your simulated recall decision and product management disposal, to show your verifier at your next verification. Communicate. If your simulated recall is a consumer-level simulated recall, let other staff in your business responsible for communications and marketing, if any, know about the simulated recall and invite them to take part. Prepare a draft point-of-sale notice. However, there is no need to provide it to retailers. If your recall is a consumer or trade-level recall, prepare draft recall communications such as emails to impacted businesses. Note, if you have access to one, you can use a digital tool to prepare your mock communications to impacted businesses, such as GS1's Product Recall NZ application. There is no need to send the communications. If your simulated recall is a consumer-level simulated recall, prepare draft advertising. However, there is no need to put it into practice. Audit. Collect reconciliation records. Amount of affected product produced, imported. Other, for example, staff sale, quality control samples, internet sales, export, units. Amount with trade customers, consumers. Amount unaccounted for. Review what went well and not so well. Identify any areas for improvement and or staff training needs, what needs to be done, and timelines for action. Optional. Complete the recall audit form. There is no need to send it to NZFS or your verifier. Records. The following kinds of records may be helpful to show your verifier. Your simulated recall scenario including supporting information. Reconciliation information showing identification of affected products and batches. Distribution of affected products and batches. Customer contact information. Draft correspondence with supplier such as email. Draft correspondence with your verifier and NZFS such as emails, name, day, time of phone call. Your risk assessment. Meeting notes such as notes including day, time, attendance, key points. Draft communications such as draft point of sale notice for a consumer level simulated recall. Draft communications to customers such as emails. Draft media release for a consumer level simulated recall. Draft social media notifications for a consumer level simulated recall. A timeline of your simulated recall. Resources. Simulated recall scenario and supporting information example. Simulated recall checklist example. Guidance. Step-by-step food recall guidance for food businesses. Procedures and checklists. Recall procedure example. Recall checklist example. Communications. Point of sale notice template. Allergen point of sale notice template. Email to businesses example. Media release example. Social media release example. Spreadsheets. Affected products spreadsheet example. Distribution spreadsheet example. Reconciliation spreadsheet example. Forms. Risk assessment form.